Something seismic just hit the NFL, and it's all coming out of Cleveland. You ever get that gut punch moment in sports news where you stop, reread the headline 3 times, and still can't quite believe what you're seeing? That's what happened today. The Cleveland Browns didn't just shuffle their roster, they detonated it. Out of nowhere, the front office made one of the most shocking moves in recent memory, cutting players across the board, and then, as if that wasn't explosive enough, shipping Kenny Pickett out of town. Yes, you heard me right. Pickett, the quarterback Kevin Stefanski stood behind, defended, and built his entire offensive vision around, is gone. He's been traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. 1 minute he's in Cleveland, the next he's in silver and black. And with that, the Browns have turned their own house upside down. And before I dive all the way in, let me tell you this. I've got something special lined up for my viewers. I'm giving away an official jersey to one of you completely free. All you've got to do is drop a comment below and make sure you're subscribed. That's it. I'll be pulling a winner from the comments and subscribers right before the first regular season kickoff. So if you've ever thought about joining this community, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button, leave your take in the comments, and you might just be repping a brand new jersey when the season begins. Now, this didn't come out of thin air. You could feel the tension building for months, like storm clouds rolling in on the horizon. Fans were already restless. The media was circling like sharks, and every single preseason game felt like it carried the weight of an entire season. And then came that final preseason matchup, the one that's already infamous in Cleveland. The one that had fans screaming in frustration and analysts shaking their heads. That game lit the fuse. The Browns were already wobbling, and then suddenly they collapsed into chaos. Because after that, it wasn't just a question of tweaking a roster spot or swapping out a backup quarterback. It became about the entire direction of the franchise. And that's when the whispers started. Would Cleveland dare go after Sanders? The thought alone sent ripples across the NFL. Bringing Sanders into the fold would have been the ultimate statement, but it also would have ignited outrage. You don't just bring in a talent like that without sending half the league into a frenzy. And yet, instead of clarity, the Browns delivered confusion, contradiction, and a full-blown crisis. And that's why people are already talking about Stefanski's job. Let's be honest here, his seat isn't warm anymore, it's on fire. When you look at this organization, it feels like 2 separate forces are fighting for control. On one side, you've got Stefanski, the coach who clung to Kenny Pickett as if his career depended on it. He kept starting him, defending him, holding the line even when it was clear the fan base was done waiting. On the other side, you've got GM Andrew Berry, cold-eyed, calculating, and watching everything unravel in real time. And when Stefanski made that fateful decision to trot out an offensive line that left Sanders vulnerable, Berry's patience snapped. Sanders took the hit, got banged up, and for Berry, that was the last straw. You could almost feel the GM slam his fist on the table and say, enough. What happened next wasn't a reset, it was a purge. Contracts were torn apart. The defensive line wiped clean. Quarterbacks shuffled out the door. Even Huntley, who barely got 2 minutes of game time filling in for Sanders, was tossed aside like an afterthought. It was ruthless, it was dramatic, and it sent one clear message. No one is untouchable. Not the veterans, not the prospects, not even the guys the head coach himself believes in. And that's what makes this so fascinating, because what we're watching isn't just roster management, it's a power struggle. Stefanski believed in Pickett, Berry didn't. Stefanski thought Sanders could be kept on the sideline, a secondary piece of the puzzle. Berry clearly sees him as central to the future, even if it means burning the present to the ground to get there. And so here we are, staring at the wreckage. Cleveland is supposed to be preparing for the season ahead, building chemistry, finding rhythm, and instead, they're in absolute free fall. The fans don't know who to trust, the players don't know who to follow, and the league is watching in stunned silence as this organization unravels. It raises the biggest, most brutal questions. Who's really calling the shots in Cleveland right now? How much longer can Stefanski survive this storm before he's washed away completely? And perhaps most important, what does this mean for Sanders, the player caught in the middle of it all, treated like both a pawn and a future savior, depending on which side of the power struggle you listen to? The truth is, the Browns aren't just making moves, they're making a mess, and it's the kind of mess that doesn't get cleaned up quickly. It lingers, it spreads, and it leaves scars. Right now, the entire NFL is standing back, watching this chaos unfold and asking the same question we all are. What in the world is happening in Cleveland? I've got to be real with you. What's happening in Cleveland doesn't feel like just another NFL storyline. It feels like something bigger, like a storm brewing that could completely change the direction of this franchise. For weeks now, the whispers of a possible coaching change have been getting louder, At first, it was speculation, a little background noise behind the chaos of preseason, but now, those whispers have grown into something else entirely. They're not whispers anymore. They're roars, echoing across the fan base, across sports talk shows, across the entire league. And right at the center of that storm is Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, a man whose decisions and indecisions are drawing fire from every angle. When a former Browns wide receiver like TJ Houshmandzadeh steps up and speaks out, people listen, and TJ didn't just speak out, he unleashed. He went after Stefanski's treatment of Sanders with a sharpness that cut through all the excuses. He said flat out that in all his years around this game, in all his experiences, he had never once seen a coach show such little interest in putting a player, especially a quarterback, in position to thrive. Let that sink in. We're not talking about a coach being tough on a rookie. We're not talking about a coach demanding excellence. We're talking about something colder, something that felt personal. TJ said Stefanski's approach didn't even look professional anymore. It looked like bias. It looked like favoritism. And once something like that takes root, once the players, the media, and most importantly the fans start to see it that way, the damage is almost impossible to undo. And here's the part that makes it sting even more. The fans aren't just sitting quietly, waiting to see what happens. No, they're shouting, they're demanding. They're saying over and over, Sanders is our guy. Sanders should be our starter. Game 1, Week 1, no more waiting. This isn't about potential anymore. This is about belief. It's about the city of Cleveland putting its faith in Sanders and begging the coach to do the same. But instead of answering that call, Stefanski has acted like he doesn't even want it to happen. And when TJ says it's almost like Stefanski doesn't want Sanders to succeed, that's not just a hot take, that's an indictment. That's a line that cuts right to the heart of Stefanski's leadership. And if you were watching closely, you could see it written all over Stefanski himself. The body language, the sideline demeanor, the way he carried himself in interviews, he didn't look like a coach in control. He looked like a man who knew the ground beneath his feet was crumbling. The confidence, the calm, the authority, it's slipping. And you can feel it. This isn't just about one game or one bad call. This is about a pattern that's been building from the very start of preseason. Go back to that very first preseason game. Sanders stepped on the field with the eyes of Cleveland watching, and what did he do? He played clean, mistake-free, sharp. He showed poise beyond his years, the kind of performance that makes a fan base sit up and say, wait a minute, this kid has something. And what did Stefanski do with it? Nothing. No praise, no encouragement, not even the smallest sign of belief. He brushed it off like it didn't even happen. Sanders might as well have been invisible. And that's when things started to feel darker, more intentional. Because as the games rolled on, the story wasn't just that Sanders was being ignored. It was that he was being framed as the problem. It was almost like Stefanski wanted him to stumble, wanted him to fail, just to prove a point. Instead of highlighting the positives, Stefanski focused on the negatives. Instead of nurturing a young quarterback, he buried him under the weight of silence and dismissal. And TJ Houshmandzadeh saw right through it. He didn't hesitate to say the thing fans had already been whispering. Sanders wasn't being given a fair chance. He was being set up. And when you think about it, TJ was spot on. The favoritism has been there from the very beginning. Sanders could light up the field, show flashes of brilliance, and still Stefanski would retreat behind that tired, generic coach speak. We're working on developing all our quarterbacks. The safe answer, the non-answer. But everybody could see the truth. There was no genuine plan to elevate Sanders, no intention to give him the opportunity he deserved. From the start, Stefanski never planned for Sanders to thrive in Cleveland. But here's where the story takes a turn. With Kenny Pickett now gone, suddenly Stefanski's tone has shifted. Suddenly, the same coach who once dismissed Sanders now wants to talk about his development. Suddenly, Stefanski is saying the right things, promising to help the young quarterback grow. But let's be honest, does that sound like conviction, or does it sound like survival? Because to me, it doesn't feel like a coach who believes. It feels like a man who hears the footsteps, who feels the pressure, who knows the walls are closing in and is scrambling to rewrite the narrative before it's too late. And that's where Cleveland finds itself right now, trapped in this strange and dangerous moment. On one side, you have a coach whose decisions have backfired at every turn. He stuck with Pickett too long. He brushed aside Sanders' impressive preseason play. He put together offensive line schemes that left his rookie quarterback exposed, battered, and blamed. Every move has left him weaker, not stronger. And the backlash? It's everywhere. From fans, from analysts, from media, from former players like TJ Houshmandzadeh. The noise is deafening. The storm is unavoidable.
Stefanski's credibility is dangling by a thread, and job security has never been shakier. But here's the twist, and maybe the only hope Stefanski has left. The very player he's been ignoring, the very quarterback he's been pushing aside, might actually be his only lifeline. Sanders might be the key to saving him. Imagine the irony. Stefanski has spent weeks acting like Sanders was an afterthought, and now Sanders could be the only one who can bail him out. If Stefanski finally swallows his pride, if he finally gives Sanders the keys to this offense, maybe he buys himself more time. Maybe he starts to heal the broken trust with the fans. Maybe he regains the locker room. Maybe he survives. But that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is it already too late? Has the damage already been done? Because once the fans lose faith, once the locker room starts to doubt, once the media begins circling like vultures, it's almost impossible to get it back. Stefanski might hand the job to Sanders tomorrow, but will anyone believe it's genuine? Or will they all see it for what it really is, desperation? And that's why I've got to ask you, where do you stand on this? Do you believe Kevin Stefanski has completely botched his handling of Sanders?
Has his loyalty to Pickett and his stubborn choices buried him too deep to climb out? Or do you think there's still a path forward? A chance that by finally giving Sanders the opportunity he deserves, this coach can not only save his season, but maybe even save his job. And beyond all of that, here's the biggest question of all. Will Kevin Stefanski survive this storm? Or are we watching the beginning of the end for his time in Cleveland? Drop your thoughts down below, because I need to hear what you think. This isn't just another storyline in the NFL. This is the future of the Browns hanging in the balance, and every decision from here on out could determine not just who starts under center, but who holds the whistle on the sidelines.